All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week here on the Powerhouse. And we are recording this live across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So if you're joining us, drop in the chat where you're joining us from. And what we're going to talk about today is continue in our series on the power of you. And today we want to talk about the power of choice. So the whole idea behind the Power of You season was I caught myself literally consuming podcasts, books, you name it, from all of these different sources of everything that I needed to really claim my power in all aspects of my life, whether that be financially, health, body image, you name it. I was going to different resources. So I thought, how incredible would it be to bring all these badass women into the powerhouse and allow them to share these messages of all these people I've already been following, and that way we could do a live collaboration. And that is exactly how the idea behind this episode today, the power of choice, was born. And with that being said, without further ado, I cannot wait to introduce all of you to this extremely incredible human being, Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne.
Hi, Brittany. I'm just so happy to be here. So let's do this.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. Roxanne, tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a conscious luminary, celestial guide, energy healer. So I come from a generation of shamans, of energy healers. And I have been called by my lineage just to really step in and to help others embody and alchemize all their experiences, all their wounds, so that they can really strip it all away to really find that magic by using it as part of their internal medicine. So, yeah, it's a really powerful methodology. And yeah, just to really help people come to who they really are and the depth of who they are.
Oh, Roxanne, I cannot wait to dive in. But for anyone that's watching or listening to this later on, I promise you we're going to come full circle about why this is on a business podcast and a career podcast today. I love bringing on folks that we wouldn't traditionally think that the two go hand in hand. So, Roxanne, tell us a little bit about your journey because this is not where you started.
No, absolutely. Ever since I was a little girl, I had this deep knowingness that I was going to be called to serve, to make an impact in the world. I didn't really understand what that was all going to entail, but I went through the motions of life, of what I should be doing with my life, what we're told that we should, the direction that we should be going into. And for some, it really serves them well. And just for myself, it wasn't fully aligned. And I was in executive position after executive position and helping everybody else succeed in their business. And it was a beautiful thing, but it was also, obviously, as you know, as a woman executive, it can be very challenging to find your place and to come into your voice. And that was a very massive learning for me. But I really realized that I could really harness everything that I am in the embodiment of who I am, and then still bring amazing results and to be able to drive everything within that business for optimal success while still being the leader that fits who I am and not fits what I used to think or idealize that another woman should be in terms of stepping into their power.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So, how did this happen? Because I'm sure it wasn't one day you decided to walk away from an executive career and start doing something that unfortunately is still as controversial as what you do today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very controversial in the sense that, we don't believe in our spirituality. We don't believe in our connection to self and to our intuitive and our instinctualness. We really calibrate ourselves in our intellectual body, which our energy is the biggest disposition within us. So for me, I was in this job, in this career, making, incredible financial revenue and income. So it was a really challenging thing, but I experienced the first near-death experience where we went over a cliff, and it really kind of pivoted. It was like this catalyst moment where I was really questioning the authenticity of, was I fully aligned? Did I feel like I was fulfilling my purpose? Did I even know what my purpose was? So that really kind of brought me into this beautiful soul and self-mastery journey where I really started questioning things in my own authenticity. What is my truth? What do I actually desire for my life? Is this the path that I'm choosing? Is this the path that I see for myself? Is this the relationship that I want to be in? Is this, every aspect of my life? Is this where I want to be in this now moment? And when I started questioning things, it was just like this unraveling, this deconstruction of who I thought I was, coming to the authenticity of this peace and this knowingness within me. And I was called by a dream from my ancestors to really step into my healing gifts. And at first I was like, "Oh my goodness, like my family is gonna be so apprehensive." Like, even though they've always considered me like an old soul and people would always come to me for guidance, I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, what are they gonna think? Like, this is a very lucrative job, and I'm stepping into a business. No, like, there's no revenue at this point." I didn't make an illogical decision. Like, I made sure that I was set up before I fully went in, but it was like I brought this to my family, and they're like, "Yes, like, why haven't you stepped into this earlier?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna take where I'm being guided and I'm just gonna follow it, and I've been able to build a very successful, soulful business. So, yeah, so it's just been such an incredible journey, but coming into that also, being in those executive positions, you really learn a lot, not just about business, but you learn a lot about yourself and the grit of what you're made of, and that really helped me to be able to flourish within my own business, within my own entity.
Well, Roxanne, thank you for sharing that beautiful story and the vulnerability. That's certainly not lost, and that's very much what we do, and why I'm so selective about folks that I do collaborations with, because a lot of us like to tell the story social media wants to hear, right? Of, it's this easy, you just go out there, and they don't share the real, the raw, the messy. And I think that's what really resonated so much when I personally heard your story and what you did, and just the radical shift, because I went through something very, in a way, very similar. And very early in my career, I was, serving as an executive, and I was trying to do it in a way that was not authentic to myself. I was really filtering myself down, and I carried on like that for about 5 years, and to be perfectly transparent, it landed me in the ER. And so it was like at that point, it's like, I was very, very young at the time. And I realized after my own version of an eat, pray, love journey with, working with folks like you that had the spiritual calling, that had these gifts, and really, I saw every Reiki healer there was, every shaman, every master, anything I could get my hands on. And what I really discovered was I was going at this all wrong. And so I literally spent the next 10 years using my career almost as a science experiment. Is there a way that I could make a choice in my life to not stay where I was, and actually make the choice to empower what made me different? So walking into the workplace and not filtering out and watering down who I was. And much to my surprise, it actually worked really well. I was able to rise to be a global executive in my early 30s. I 13x my comp package. I was actually doing work that had a lot of meaning. But if I had not made that choice at the time, obviously I wouldn't do my true calling, which is what I do today, is helping other women, do exactly what I did. When it comes to this power of choice, you and I both, I think people, when they hear our stories, would assume it was easy for us to make that choice. But I don't know about you, I fought that choice tooth and nail because it was so quote unquote non-traditional. What was that push and pull like for you?
Oh, absolutely. You're thinking, why am I gonna leave something that is a sure thing as much as it can be a sure thing, in this world? And, this is providing for my family, this is putting a roof over my head. There's so many things that go through us. And then there's this aspect where what happens if I fail? What happens if it's not what I think it's gonna be? And we never wanna think that. We never wanna go there. But as an executive, you're looking at every contingency plan, you're looking at every risk management, and you're looking at everything from a reality lens of what can actually transpire. And there was this this knowingness that kept pushing me, and then my ego wanted to stay in the fear and the scarcity and the lack, and it was like, "No, like, don't do this, like, you'd be crazy to be able to leave your benefits," like, everything that encompasses your vacation package, your comp package, everything. And I was like, "You know what? I just need to do this." But I fought with myself. Like, it was an internal struggle for quite a bit of time, and it was when I actually sat down with my family, which my mom and my dad always give, like, really sound advice, and it's never what I wanna hear, it's just what they believe from their heart. They always tell me to follow my heart, so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring this to them, I'm ready to make this shift." And it's not that they would have, been the deciding factor, but it would have given me a little bit more to think about. And when I brought it to them, they were like, "Well, why haven't you done this sooner? Like, this is definitely what you need to do." It was like this permission that I wasn't giving myself that I needed from my parents to be able to say, "You can do this, like, believe in yourself, honey." You know what I mean? Instead of it coming from me because there were so many labels, so many identities that I had placed on myself that I didn't realize that I actually believed in myself. I wasn't empowering myself, I was disempowering myself because I was allowing other people to label me and to define who I was and the structure of who I was. So when I started taking that power back and having that power of choice, the power of actually deciding to step into this in this full embodiment and where I was being called opposed to staying where, I loved what I did, but it just wasn't what was in alignment. It wasn't what was fulfilling for me. And when I made that shift, it was just like, "You go, girl. Like, follow your intuition, follow your instinct. Like, stop freaking questioning yourself. Like, just step into it."
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we look back on it now, like we see years before, these things happened of how, we could have, been light years ahead, or we heard that calling, right? For whatever it was. For you, obviously, it was helping people in the beautiful way that you do today. And then for me, it was, just literally stop filtering out and watering down who we are. I think that so many of women, especially those of us that are executives or live that world, and some that I absolutely loved what I did, right? That was the whole point in like staying in that world just from a, instead of internally now B2B. What do you think is the challenge? Because I see a lot that women have really lost who they are because of what you just said about labeling. Like society says you need to do this and you need to do that, you need to look a certain way, you need to act a certain way. And we literally forget who the hell we are. I don't know about you, but that's how I felt.
Oh, for sure, and this was such a big component of my journey was this soul and self-mastery journey because it was like, "Who the hell am I?" I'm this person, I attain, this ROE, I am able to do this, I'm able to do that, like, I'm nice, I'm this, I'm sweet, but who am I? You know what I mean? Who am I in the darkness? Who am I in the light? Who exactly am I? And how do I alchemize that? How do I embody that? And it's really about it's like stripping away these layers, like these onion peels, and you're really trying to get to the sweet spot of who you are. Because I don't know about you, but every little girl that I know and that I've witnessed growing up was literally conditioned to be this nice girl, like the nice girl syndrome. Like, don't do that. It's not nice. It's not girl like. It's not this. It's not that. And then we get into this executive world, which is it's an incredible world, but it also is very dominated in its masculine energy. So coming in from a feminine energy, how do I come in here and harmonize everything instead of coming at it and trying to fight it against it, right? So it really was this piece as I went through that first near death experience and, a few near death experiences shortly after that was really about who am I at the authenticity of who I am. Am I really a nice person? Do I always want to be nice? No, some days I'm not in a great mood. I'm a human being. I have emotions, but that doesn't make me a bitch just because I'm stepping into and I'm making executive decisions when I'm not, in the best mood. You know what I mean? So there's so many things that happen where we think that we have to hide so many aspects of ourselves, that we have to hide our humor, we have to be able to hide our beauty, we have to hide everything. We have to like stay behind this cloth so that we can fit in. And what I would say to any woman that is in an executive position in the now is that who you are, at the authenticity of who you are, that internal medicine, that internal power, that magic that you have in you is exactly what is needed and where you are in this now moment. And if it's not appreciated, if it's not something that is valued, then it's time to take that value somewhere else, right? So we shouldn't have to mask who we are in order to be able to conduct our life in the way that we truly desire in that sense, because you're at work how many hours a day? So you can't be your authentic self for 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on the executive. We work weekends, we work, you know what I mean? So you can't be yourself in all of those elements. And it's not to say that we have to bring in our emotionality, but it means to say that we get to bring in our full personality. And how do we work this to our advantage? How do we allow this to become advantageous instead of, disencouraging and disempowering?
Oh, Roxanne, there's so much there, and I know that I mean, there's so many rabbit holes we could go down in just that alone. So you make a really good point, and I think what we struggle with, a lot of our folks that come into the programs, most of the time, she's burnt out. She feels like an imposter in her own skin. She feels like she doesn't have a choice. And one of the very first things that we do is we say, I want you to map out your dream life. I'm talking about everything from what you do for a living. We're not consent. We don't care about money. We don't care about location, just your dream, absolutely no barriers in the way. And we really, as cliche as it sounds, we really force her to sit down and do that, within our container of other badass executive women doing just that. And when we strip down, because that's a good way to get those societal conditioning and all of those layers, and then we show her, like, well, you have the choice to do it. I'm not saying there's not going to be hard, there's not going to be limitations, there's not going to be things that pop up, but that making that choice and just the freedom of choice is something that she had forgotten along the way. And even myself, right? You said, earlier about being raised, to be the good girl, to follow the rules and all of those things. And it's like, yeah, but who are you at your core? And we call that, in our power formula for success, commanding our power.
Mhm.
How do you do that with your clients? Because I know that's in a much different form, but really peeling back and getting back to the choice and reclaiming the authentic self.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's really important to understand that our spiritual essence, our energetic essence is the exact same thing as our business, entrepreneurial, executive essence. That is the authenticity of who we are. That is what we are made of. We are made of energy, right? So when we understand that, we understand the divination that we are. And this is not religion, this is just our own connection to our own spirit. When we have clients, it's really important. This is why I always work at the intellectual level first and the mental body first, and then we work to the emotional body, and then we go into the physical and more of the spiritual, the energetics. Because what's important here is that when we step in and we have all these conditioned beliefs, we have all of these programmings that have happened, all of these experiences that have happened throughout our life, and we take them and we create significance with them, we create meaning with them. And what that does is that affects our energy imprint, how we're outputting, how we feel about ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we think about ourselves. So when we understand that, we need to be able to go and do this massive deconstruction. Self and soul mastery journey is never easy. None of this work is easy because you're literally removing things that you thought were you that aren't you. It's like you think that maybe someone's your parents and all of a sudden you find out that they're not your parents. It's like it's a shock to the system, and the body doesn't like change. We fear change. We don't like the unknown, but it's about being able to trust where you're being guided in that moment. And when we take away those conditioned beliefs, when we take away that matrix, it really allows someone to see, okay, I believe this, but what are the actual truths to this? I don't think that I'm as powerful as a man in an executive position. I don't think I should be compensated the same. Well, why do I feel that way? Right? What are the truths that support that? And it's really about going and doing this deconstruction and realizing, is this really my belief, or is this something that society has told me and led me to believe? Or is this something that really is emanating through me? Right? When we think about equality, when we think about gender equality in the workplace, and we think about all these things that we have fought for, it's to understand that nobody is higher than another. We are all, there's no such thing as hierarchy in divination and in the spiritual realm. We are all equal. So there is no discrimination, there is no divisiveness. So when we come into this space and we work within the intellectual body, then we go into that emotional body. What has your heart been telling you? Where has your heart been pulling you this entire time? Let's decompact that. Like, let's figure out what's going on there. Why do you feel like you're an imposter? Why do you feel like you walk in a room and you feel like you have to be someone else in order to stand in your power? Right? It's just about going in and being able to allow them to see it from a different perspective, opening the mindset, coming into this growth mindset instead of everything else that everybody else has told us, and stepping into our power of choice. I have the choice to believe in something. I have the choice to step into my power. I have the choice to claim who I am and the authenticity of who I am. It's all about choice. We all have a choice. We can choose not to step into ourselves, and we can choose to step in.
Oh, Roxanne, that's so beautiful, and there's so many, amazing nuggets in that statement. What stood out to me in what you just said is you have the choice to stay where you're at, and you have the choice to move forward. And for me, anytime I'm faced with a choice, earlier today, I mean, this is something I practice on every single day, is given this choice, and when I look back on my life, my career, my personal life, everything about who I am in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, what do I really want to see? Because, yeah, you
Mhm.
can stay in comfortability. You could stay like just, but you could have not answered the calling and made that choice, right? I could have made the choice to continue to do that. It was the safer bet, and it was so much less risk at the time.
Yeah.
But why do you have evidence do you have to support that's the best path? Because I say that probably 20 times a day with my clients, right? I'll be grabbing the Slack messages, they'll be coming through, and they'll say, I don't think, and I'll say over and over, what evidence do you have to support that? And typically, if we ask ourselves that 5 times, no matter what we respond with, just keep asking yourself, you'll get to where, oh shit, there is no evidence to support that.
Yeah, I love that. And really what I like to do with my clients also is the why, right? We keep going a little bit deeper into the why until that why makes you cry. It's not truly your why. The why you're doing the things that you're doing, why you're living an unauthentic life, or if you're living an authentic life, it really is about coming into that deeper why. Why are you doing that? Because, I'm scared to disappoint my parents. I'm scared to let down my family. It always comes to something that is created within emotionality. It all is coming from the heart, from the emotional body. When we allow the mind to come in, that is when the doubt comes in. That's when the doubt seeps in. But when we lead with our heart, we lead with our intuition, there's this knowingness. There's no right or wrong. Every path is going to lead you to some type of incredibleness, some type of lesson, some type of teaching. It is all there to help shape you. And when we look at it from a different perspective, when we see it from a place of growth and evolution, we stop fearing it because we look at it as a milestone. Look, I tried this venture. It really fulfilled my heart in that moment, but it's no longer serving me. I'd really like to go back to the corporate world. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with about being able to step into that choice. Or, hey, like, I'm in this position and I really want to be able to go and work for these people, but the salary isn't the same. And, I'll have to like rebuild my name and my reputation and so forth. But it's all learnings, it's all experiences. And this is what alchemizes who we are. This is what allows us to even feel even more empowered, because knowledge is power. And when we choose to step into that knowledge and to learn that knowledge, it becomes incredibly powerful.
Yeah, Roxanne, and I think, we'll wrap everyone up with this, something you said that really stuck out to me, is fear. I know a lot of my folks within the PowHER program really mistake intuition and fear. And how it's always worked for me, kind of like my cheat sheet, was fear felt like pushing and intuition felt like pulling,
Yeah.
especially in my spiritual journey, because I, grew up with a lot of religious trauma. So when I first went on my own spiritual journey, I really had a lot of fear around that because I was taught that, no, that's bad, or, that's outside of this very structured, institutionalized religion. So you can't explore that. And while it may not seem related to business, it very much is, because I noticed every mistake that I made throughout my career, every mistake I make in my business today, let's be honest, it's
Yeah.
because I'm acting out of fear. And so I'm very much feeling pushed to make a decision instead of pulled. How does that work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really resonate with this because when it comes from the ego, it feels like it's forceful. And it will be forceful because it's trying to move us into a place of comfortability. It doesn't want to bring us to a place of unknown. And when we come into that intuitive sense, it's a knowingness. For me, I get goosebumps throughout my body. I get vibrations throughout my body. But for a lot of my clients, they feel like they're being pulled. They're being pulled into their heart space. They're being pulled into their knowingness. And when we drive ourselves out of fear, we really misalign ourselves to reciprocity. We take ourselves out of this vibrational alignment of receiving everything that we're requesting from the universe because we're not living in the laws of nature. We're not allowing the polarity of who we are, of that beautiful female and masculine energy. The masculine is very forceful and wants to get things done and is construct and it's beautiful. But the feminine is the flow, it's the knowingness, it's the creativeness. And when we come into that space of vibrational frequency, it opens us up. It opens your intuition that much more, right? So it's about trusting. When we learn to trust that everything is always provided for us, regardless if we view it as good and bad, there's no such thing as good or bad, right? There's no such thing as right or wrong. But we were led to believe by societal pressures, by religious structures, that it's shame, guilt in this if you don't do it a certain way, right? So when we're doing it in our masculine and we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing something, it's not a full body yes, it's not a full body alignment. We're doing that out of scarcity, lack, because we're looking to attain something. We're not doing it because we're stepping into our knowingness and we're trusting where we're being guided, while still doing those soft actions that need to happen in order to run a business, like a successful business.
Ugh. Well, Roxanne, I want to hang out here all day. I mean, just so much here. But where can folks go if they're listening to this across where they listen to their favorite podcast, or they're following you on us on social? Where can they go to learn more about you if they're ready to start a spiritual journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can connect with me online through social media channels. I'm everywhere under my name, under Roxanne Chaput, and they can check out my website and the Illumination Retreat website also, where we do a lot of incredible work there.
All right, everyone. Well, you heard that. You can follow her at Roxanne Chaput, RaxanneChaput. With my very Americanized education, hopefully I pronounced that one correctly. But and for all of the PowHER listeners out there, obviously this is what we wanted to bring you today, so you can start harnessing the power of choice. This is what's going to help you continually on your path of building unshakable confidence, dominating in the boardroom, and closing your own gender pay gap. Guess what? On your own terms and as your authentic self. All right, everyone. So until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Roxanne, cannot wait to collaborate again.
I am so excited for next week, Brittany. Migwa.
Bye.
Bye.